What's up guys, welcome back to a new part of the Fix Your Basic tutorial series, and today we're going to cover how to do your zooms and a little bit of the positioning of your clips, and this is also called pan cropping if you didn't know. Alright, so first of all, this is what we did in the previous video, and we basically just did our syncing and our velocity, so it looks like this. So now we're going to add a little more movement in this, and a good way to do that is to use zooms. So the first thing you want to do is hold Ctrl Alt Shift plus Y. So this will create a null layer, or you can also just right click, new, and then null object. And the null object is basically like completely nothing, but you can link certain properties like the scale or the position to an actual clip. So let's just cut it here. Ctrl Shift plus D, and then let's remove the other parts, so like this. So it's just as long as your clip below it. Then some people will tell you to like copy it instantly, like 3 times for example, but I think you can just do that afterwards, only if you need multiple null layers, but I'll explain all that stuff later. For now, just start off with one null layer. Then you want to select your original clip, go here to this thing here, and now you can drag it on top of your null layer, so you kind of link it. And then on your clip, you should be able to see this null 1 or whatever your null layer is called. So linking is very important. If you don't do this before actually scaling or positioning your clip, then it will just not move with it. And if you then try to link it afterwards, it will just be a big mess. So you're just better off redoing it altogether. So what we're going to do is zoom it out. And then here we're going to zoom it in. And then on the second clip, you can zoom it in again. And then here we might want to zoom it in again, and then we can zoom it out to finish it off. So that's a little bit more varying than just constantly zooming in and out repeatedly, which won't really look interesting. So of course press S on here, and then we want to animate it, so press this button. And then here we'll just start off by scaling it like this. Then we want to go to the ending keyframe and set it to 100. So now you can see if it's just linear, it looks like this. So it kind of zooms out. If you go to the graph editor, you see it's just a straight line. So what you want to do is select them all, press F9 to kind of like ease the keyframes. And then if you go to the graph editor, you can see we have these handles to play around with. So we're going to make the graph look like this. Also a really easy trick to make sure this line stays flat is to just hold shift and then it just stays flat. And that's something you really just want, you know, like some people will do it like this, like a little bit up, but there's really no reason to do this. Like, you just keep it flat, so it always ends in a smooth part. Alright, like that. Then what we can do is make another null layer, so Ctrl Alt Shift plus Y. And the reason we do this is because we need another scale property, but it does overlap with the one we already got, so we can't do it on the same null layer. So what we're going to do is link this one as well. Now we're not going to go to our original clip and link it here again, that's not what we're going to do, but we're going to go to our first null layer, and then here we can link it to our second null layer, like this. So you always got to go in this like kind of stair shape going upwards. And now as you can see, if you do the same with this null layer, for example, a scale, we can scale it again. So here we're going around the center maybe, like this, and then animate it, and then go to the end. And here we can scale it up, like this. All right, then select them all, F9, and go to the graph editor. And then again, you can hold shift to make this one really flat, and then make it go steep again. So we're going to make it steep towards the impact again, where our transition happens. And as you can see, now it looks really nice. So you can change around these graphs a lot, you know, maybe you just want it a little less steep like this. But for now, I think this looked a little bit better. So now we can go to our second clip. So we're going to do the same thing, make a null layer, and then cut it up. And then here, don't forget to link it, of course. Alright, so now here, you could choose to like zoom out or zoom in again. But if you really want it to look smooth, then you kind of got to base it off your previous clip. So for example here, we zoom it in, as you can see, our clip gets bigger and bigger. Then it would look the most smooth if we zoom it in here again. But it is possible to just zoom it out again, but then you'll just get this like screen pump, which just goes like this. And that's also fine, but it's not the usual thing you'll see. So what we'll do is of course zoom it in again. So press S, animate it, and then you kind of want to have the motion of zooming in. So you don't just gotta think, oh, I'm gonna zoom in, I'm just going to increase this value, because then you're already zoomed in here. What you want to do is go somewhere around here, so probably around the end, and then here you can increase it. So now without any graph, just making it linear, you can see it has the motion of zooming in like this. And now as you can see here, we zoom in and then again. So this will look the best, this will look the most smooth in case you want that. So now we're going to make a graph for it, select them all, F9, and then graph editor. And then here again, you might hesitate, wait, do I need to like make a graph like this, or is it like the opposite way? Just gotta think, here is your transition around this keyframe here, or rather like marker here. And here is always where you want like the steepest parts, right? So on this keyframe, this gotta be the steepest part. On the previous clip as well, if you go to the previous graph, this has to be the steepest part because this is like your actual impact, right? So then you can make something like this. And as you can see, that looks beautiful. Now it actually looks smooth. Now to switch it up, we can kind of like zoom it in again, because here we zoomed it out and then in and then here in and then that sounds so weird, but what you can do is Ctrl-Alt-Shift+Y to make another null object. And then what we'll do different with this clip is that it zooms in here, but then we'll zoom it in again. So that will be kind of different. So let's just link it. Don't forget that. So from your first null layer to your second one, and then here you want to press S again. And then around the middle, you want to make a keyframe. And then here, you just want to zoom it in again, like this. Now you'll see, like at a certain point, zooming in even more might be like kind of weird. Like you won't want to like zoom in this much most of the time. So I want to keep it around here. And then as you can see, there's not much zoom going on. Like actually, it's still fine. But if you kind of want to balance it, then you just got to make sure that the keyframe here on your previous null layer is just a little bit less zoomed in, like this maybe. So that you just have like a little bit of space for like zooming in even more. So now as you can see, if you did change this, your graph might look weird. So you got to go into the graph editor again. And as you can see, your graph might do some weird things. So just fix that up. Okay, perfect. And then on the second null layer, we'll zoom in again. So here we just want to select them all, F9 and then graph editor. And then here again, you can just check, here is the impact, here is our transition. So the keyframe closest to that has to just have a lot of impact, like this. And then you shift to make this one flat. Now, as you can see on this clip, it will zoom in and then zoom in again. All right. Now, I don't really like the kind of linearness of this, if you can see. It kind of like already moves a little too quickly for me. So what you can do is just drag this keyframe more to the right and then graph editor again to fix it up. And now I like it a little bit more because there's not already this zooming in motion at the center of your clip, as you can see. You know, it just waits a little bit more with zooming in. Maybe let's do it like one keyframe back, maybe even one more, like this. So you really just got to play around with it. And now a beautiful example for this, if you don't use shift on this one, for example, people will just do like this type of stuff. You can see it kind of zooms in too quickly. And now this is extreme. I wouldn't really expect you to do this, you know, or maybe you do. Like mostly some people will just do this and it's not extreme, but sometimes it is kind of noticeable that it kind of goes a little bit faster here. So you really just want to keep that smooth with shift. Alright, then on the last clip, we can just make a zoom in and then to finish it off, a zoom out. I think it will fit really well with the reverse velocity we did in the previous tutorial, because it kind of like reverses the zooming motion as well. So that really fits. So again, a null object and then link it. So now we're going a little bit faster. If you don't really got the hang of it, then definitely just go back in the video and try to understand it a little bit better. But I assume that you already got the hang of this part, creating the null layers and linking it. So then we press S, make a keyframe, and then we want to zoom in. So we keep the first one at 100. And then we want to create kind of like the zooming motion of zooming in. So like this. And if you're not too sure about it, just keep it linear and just check. Is it just going the right direction that you want? So as you can see, it zooms in and then here it zooms in again. So that's perfect. So now we can go to the graph editor. Don't forget to press F9, of course. And then here is the transition. So here it has to go fast. And then like this. I kind of want to zoom it in a little less. So maybe like this. All right, that's perfect. Then of course, you got to make another null layer and link it. And then here we can just zoom it out again like this. Now, if you do find yourself needing to like zoom it out quite a lot, so like till it looks good, you know, but then you get these like black bars, then you can use something called CC repeat tile or motion tile to fix these black bars. But honestly, you should see it as like a challenge to make your edit with the least amount of motion tile, because it can look ugly at times. So, you know, so then you want to press F9 and go to the graph editor and do the exact same thing here. So now we don't really have a transition, but we would go to like a next clip, for example. So here we gotta have the steep part. All right, that's beautiful. Now a little extra you can do is dragging like the steepest keyframe, so this one, just a little bit up or down so that you get this kind of like hump here. And what this will do is kind of like fake zoom your clip. You can do this with the position as well, and then we'll kind of like fake slide to the right, for example, but it will go to the left eventually. And I'll just show you what this does. So as you can see, it just has this little nudge of like zooming in again and then quickly zooming out. And it has like a really impactful effect on it. So I really love this, and you can do this anytime, you know, for example, with our first graph on the first null layer. Let's go here. You can also just, you know, drag this one, the steepest keyframe up, and then it also does that kind of like effect, you know, and you can see that's like really bouncy. So it just makes your edit feel a little more bouncy. But always try to make sure that it's not too long. Like, for example, on here, I don't really like it because the graph is just so long. So we could like drag this more here and then fix it again like this. You know, so this is how you can do it. In the beginning, I don't really like it anyway, so let's just keep that one normal. But just keep that in mind, like that's a little trick. If you just want to spice up your edit, make it feel a little more bouncy, then this is like the goat for it, honestly. Like it's amazing. So let's just keep it like this, looks great. Alright, that's it for the zooming part. Now I'll just quickly show you how to kind of like position your clips as well, in case you want that. So let's just do it with the last clip as well. I just want like the clip to be a little more positioned upwards. You don't have to add another null object. So what you can do is actually use your top null object, because we're going to use a position right now, so not a scale. So if you press P for position, you can see we have no keyframes here. We can just use this null layer. Some people will add like another null layer on top of that just because they're like used to it, or people tell them to like copy the null layers 3 times every time, you know. But like that's really just not necessary. We can just use this one. So let's go here. Then we can separate the dimensions. So right click on position and then separate dimensions. And then we only need the Y one, because if you just scroll through it, this one is meant for like the upwards and downwards motion. So let's keyframe this one, and then we can go to the beginning, and then here we can keyframe it again. And then here, we actually got to drag this one more to the end. Yeah, just make sure it looks like this, you know. So the first keyframe at its default value, and then the last keyframe, we can just move it up like this. And now as you can see as well, if you want to like align every keyframe and stuff, that's fine. But honestly, I think it looks like a little bit more dynamic if you just like slide things around a little bit. So now we can select it all, F9, and then the graph editor. And here we can just do this again. So same with the position as with the scale. You just look for like the impact point. So here is the transition. And now you want to make this keyframe the closest to it, the most steep. As you can see, now it moves up as well. But we do have to set it back to our default value, because as you can see here, we get some black bars because here it's zoomed out completely, so at its default value. And if you just move it up, then of course our clip is just not big enough. So what we're going to do now is make another null object, because we don't really have any position keyframes left to overlap it with. So we're just going to create another one and then just link it, of course. And here now we can overlap our positioning as well. So press P, separate the dimensions. And then on the Y one, you can just make it like this again. Then select them, F9, and then graph editor. And here you just want to make a graph that looks like this. Now, sometimes you kind of gotta like match it. For example, here, you can see, I feel like it just positions itself way sooner than it actually scales. So you kind of gotta like find the best graph that fits with it. For example, if I do it extreme like this, you can really see it first going down and then zooming out. And sometimes that can really look good like this. Like it just creates some more motion. But honestly, I think it's better for now to just make it steep as well, like this. So then it just goes down about the same time. So that's how you do your zooming and your positioning. Hopefully you've learned a lot, and if you did, make sure to subscribe. And if you want me to help you even more with After Effects, then make sure to go to the first link in the description down below, because there's like an editing group and I can just really help you skyrocket your skills. There's also some assets you can download, and you can even book coaching calls with me, so you can really just learn more in-depth information about After Effects. Alright, hopefully I'll see you in another part. Bye bye.